You're listening to Those Dram Yinzers with your hosts, Jon and Zack.
Hey everyone, I'm Jon.
And I'm Josh.
And welcome to Those Dram Yinzers, where we drink whiskey
And talk about it.
Yes, you heard correctly. Zack sadly could not make it to this event with us today, but as always when we have events, we always bring our buddy Josh from Thrifty Whiskey. Thanks, Josh.
Not a problem. Happy to be here.
We are at live, even though you wouldn't know it by the no background noise, we are at Whiskey Rebellion Fest 2023. And we actually got moved down the road. We asked to be moved down the road so that we didn't have all the music and the bands and everything in the background, like distorting everything and making Josh and Tomas's lives hell.
Making it essentially impossible. Like,
yes.
There was so much stuff that got lost from last year.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah. I mean, there was even some I did last year's editing for our podcast, and I mean, I made it work, but I wasn't. You and me both have like the OCD of like it has to be perfect, and it wasn't great, but I wanted to not lose it. But now this year we have nothing.
There's a generator, but
yeah, I don't even hear it in my headphones.
No,
so.
and that's honestly, even if we do hear it, that's so consistent.
And that's an easy
so easy.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, so we're gonna get some interviews. Gonna try to get some different people this year. Might get some same people and then talk about differences. Like I definitely want to talk to Terry again about the street theater, because as they said, there's like a rotating,
right.
Scripts that they go through. So I want to hear what's different this year than last year, and
yeah, I want to know like what the script is like this year.
Yeah,
because we've only seen the first act so far.
They did a little bit of something earlier while we were setting up as well, but I couldn't hear it all the way down here. So. But I'd like to get Shayna back. She's in charge of the parade. I want to see if there's any differences in the parade from this year to last year. But, yeah, we'll see. I'm going to talk to Tracy, try to get Tracy down here, but she runs around like a chicken with her head cut off. So it's hard to get her nailed down for a couple minutes.
But we appreciate all the work that she does for us.
Oh, for sure. We are very, honestly, I mean, this caused extra work moving down here for us. I mean, the tent we've been at for the past couple of years is up there consistently.
Right.
And I was just very grateful that they were willing to make these adjustments for us and weren't just like, nope, that's too much work. You're going to sit here. Which I would have been like, okay, yes, ma'am. Like, because they're amazing anyway. But just a huge thank you. We're right across from the Bradford House, and then we have the
meeting house.
The meeting house and the Rebellion, historical.
The education center.
The education center. Thank you. You can see it. I can't see it.
I'm right there.
Yeah. So we're right here around everything. And if you're watching the video on Thrifty, it might be catching this, but the Little Rebels are doing their little presentation over here by us. And, yeah. There you go. They scared them. They scared me.
Yeah.
Cute. Anyway. All right. So, Josh, any thoughts on this year?
I mean, nothing yet. I mean, it's like last year. Mm-hmm. So, kind of know what we're getting in for, and it's a good time every year. So,
yeah.
I'm looking forward to just eating some good food, talking to some interesting people, and just seeing what's going on.
Yeah. All right. Well, we will be back. And we're back with our first interview. It wasn't any of the ones we were talking about, but you and I were planning on having Patrick back. But we have Patrick Bocci, not Baki. Patrick Bocci is the co-executive director of West Overton Village and Museum. Welcome back, Patrick.
Glad to be back. Thank you so much for having me.
Perfect. So Patrick, like you said, was here last year. He did the podcast version, the video version. The audio it was just
so hard. There was a rock band in the background, and trying to overcome that was just impossible for me.
Yeah.
This is a much better location to do set.
For sure.
Yeah. 100%.
So you said we got a generator in the background, but I'm not even hearing it, so
right.
I'm good.
Yeah, I'm not worried about it.
Yeah.
So Patrick, West Everton, huge, historical aspect, but let's talk something specific.
Sure.
Let's talk the Whiskey Smash.
Whiskey Smash. It's one of the best nights of the year, if not the best night of the year. So the Whiskey Smash is our annual fundraiser. It's held every November. This year it's November 18th from 6 to 8, where we celebrate whiskey heritage, whiskey history of Pennsylvania. So we have 9 distillers lined up, ready to go. So it's a night of samples, bottle sales, silent auctions, food, music, and West Overton Distilling Company's educational distillery will also be open for the night. So it's a fun, low-key event that really helps support West Overton's mission.
Mm-hmm. Oh, for sure. And I know we tried to get there last year, and schedules stink. But I definitely want to make sure we get down there this year. So I'm blocking it off on all of our calendars so that we don't.
It's been blocked off for me for a bit.
Well,
now.
I'd say and there's a teeny bit of a tie into the Smash with you, Josh. Well, not you particularly, but you said Joyce is doing something.
Oh yeah. I mean, you guys still need to talk to her about that. So nothing official.
Nothing official,
right
but we're going to talk to Joyce. She's going to provide desserts for us. We're thinking of some sort of cookie bar type aspect to it. Something low-key, easy.
True Pittsburgh cookie table.
Absolutely.
And that's her jam. It's all about cookies. So
heck yeah.
Heck yeah.
I know, but last year. I mean, you guys did the vendor show.
Yep.
I don't remember what month that was.
We do 2 vendor shows a year. One in May, our Makers Market, and then we do a holiday vendor market as well inside. And Joyce has come out, and she this past May made some rye shortbread cookies and offered them from the distillery, free samples, and they were amazing. And following, she and I were chatting about possibly doing desserts for the Whiskey Smash because they were amazing cookies.
I'm excited. I'm already excited. I'm more excited.
I mean, I'm looking forward to it.
It's a great night. We're tickets will go on sale in August.
Okay, that was my next question.
Please be on the lookout for that. And there is a limited availability of about 250 or so guests. So first come, first serve, man. Yeah. Come on out.
And as long as they're following you on social media.
Social media, you could join our mailing list. Follow our website, westovertonvillage.org, has all that information.
Is there any benefit for signing up for your mailing list?
Yeah, so if you decide to sign up for our mailing list, which you could do so today at the Whiskey Rebellion Festival, or if you stop by West Overton Village before August, if you sign up now, there's a chance to win two free tickets to the Smash.
Nice.
Yeah.
Win.
I'm very excited, and obviously I get to be a part of it a little more, being part of the committee this year. I'm excited to help promote it, and
yeah, absolutely,
and just kind of all the things that are going on, and it's fun seeing what you guys are doing and what you guys have done in the past and what you can do better, and all that kind of things.
Yeah, so even in the last year, there's been so much happening at West Overton, from producing whiskey to our newest exhibition just received an award of excellence from the American Association of State and Local History. It was one of only 51 museums in the nation to receive that award. We also received a grant from PHMC to do some preservation work on the property. So we received a $100,000 grant, and we're confident that it's going to be matched. So you start to see a little bit of a facelift, some refresh of the buildings. So we're very excited for that, and some great programming coming up in addition to the Whiskey Smash. But
I'm going to ask you my.
You got more of an insider view on this than I do, so go ahead.
I was going to, just for our viewers, I know why West Overton's important to whiskey.
Sure.
Can you talk about, though, why West Overton's important for whiskey here in Pennsylvania?
Yeah, absolutely. So West Overton Village was founded in 1803 by a farmer from eastern Pennsylvania. He settles the land like many German migrants do at that time. And it's really his son and his grandson, Abraham, who build this farm into a company town that's focused on agriculture and agriculture-related industries, farming, textile mills, coal and coke ovens, and whiskey history. So whiskey was first distilled at West Overton in 1810, and that is Old Overholt. So Old Overholt whiskey was first produced 1810, and it was produced on site till Prohibition. Following Prohibition, things change, and that becomes a Jim Beam product in 1987, and where they still make it today. But we just have that whiskey heritage, right? You throw a stone in Western Pennsylvania, you're going to hit a distillery if you're living here in the 1900s. And Old Overholt, fantastic whiskey.
Do you want to talk about the whiskey you guys are currently making and how you're incorporating that into your education?
Yeah, absolutely. So because we have that heritage with Old Overholt whiskey being produced on site for hundreds of years, we decided to open our own distillery, do our own product. So we have a small educational distillery under West Overton Distilling Company, where we make 2-3 barrels a year as an education program of the museum. So we want to celebrate that whiskey history that is found in Pennsylvania. We want to talk about the economics of whiskey. We want to talk about the science of whiskey, and what better way to do that than to make whiskey and show that to the folks. So our distiller Justin Grimm is doing a finishing run on a white whiskey that is a collaboration of Fort Ligonier. It's going to be 250 bottles. That will be sold at Fort Ligonier in Ligonier, and it will be also sold at West Overton Distilling. And then he's going to be making a barrel of Monongahela rye. So that's what we do. We use a historic mash bill, 80% rye, 20% malted barley, and we make a pretty great whiskey, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think the sample you gave me last time was the most citrusy, like lemony whiskey I think I've ever tasted. Just naturally being that flavor.
Yep. That was the third barrel off the line. It's all single barrel, very small batch, but it's good. Yeah, it makes a great sipper.
Now, again, having talked to you previously, like last month,
so you got insider. You go.
Yeah, I know. I know. You mentioned something I thought was pretty exciting about one of the changes you're going to be making to your grains.
Yes. So this barrel that I just mentioned with Justin, it's the first time since Prohibition that our whiskey is being made with rye that's grown on site. So we harvested a few acres of rye and it's being made into whiskey as we speak. So we're very excited to see what flavors come out of that.
That's really cool.
Right. No, that part to me is
that's
so cool.
That's
yeah.
so cool.
We're so excited.
Well, especially with you guys doing only a handful of barrels
right,
like a year.
Right.
That's especially, and like you said, it's more like educational based.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's a little bit more doable, I guess, than some of the bigger ones because they're needing like a lot more.
Right. But
right.
But even just having access to a few acres of
and,
land, we can get plenty of rye.
We have, and guests can go and look at the rye, before they go up to the distillery and try a sample of West Overton Distilling's product.
Which basically means that and obviously the barley, I assume, is still being sourced from
barley. So it's the barley comes from a farmer in Indiana, Pennsylvania.
Yeah. But there's an element of which you guys are, in a sense, still partially at least farm to glass.
Absolutely. Yeah. You can come in and if you catch Justin in the distillery and you can talk to him, you can watch him do his thing and ask him any questions, and it's a great program, and it brings a lot of visitors to the museum who wouldn't otherwise go into the museum, but then they want to see what's going on in the village. We have 19 buildings over 40 acres. It's a pretty massive site. It's great. It's a great 19th century.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
because I know the main buildings.
Yeah.
I didn't know you guys had that many other buildings.
Yeah. Between some outbuildings, chicken coops, some worker houses, some all date to the mid 1900s,
and
mid 1800s,
and 40 acres.
40 acres.
Wow.
Yeah, so.
I need to do the tour again, apparently, because I apparently missed
I've only
a lot of
seen
stuff.
two. I've seen the distillery and the one across the street.
The museum.
Yes.
Yeah, the museum building.
Museum.
I was in the basement. I was only in the basement of the museum for the panel. The PA
evening with the experts. That was a fun night too. Yeah.
I definitely got the whiskey smash and that confused at one point. But
yeah.
It happens.
But
any other events coming up?
So upcoming this weekend, July 15th and 16th, is our annual DIY History Day. It's a family event where we do a lot of historic demonstrations. This year is different in that we're partnering with our neighbors, the Fort Allen Antique Tractor Association, and they're also doing a lot of historic demonstrations, and it's an ice cream social as well. So very friendly family. Come on out. It's a very fun event.
So you guys have been doing a lot of cool events.
Thank you.
I would love to take my kids out. Unfortunately, everyone's busy. But I'm definitely putting them in my calendar, though. Like, if we're free, let's go do this. So
awesome.
Yeah.
So back to the Whiskey Smash.
Yes.
I know tickets don't go on sale till August. Do you guys know pricing for tickets yet?
Still determining some pricing, so that information will be released soon. So
Gotcha.
we talk to our committee's meeting again next week or the week after. We'll probably hammer out those last details.
After.
Yeah. So, but those will be posted soon.
Excellent.
I won't tell them anything, I promise.
No.
Lips are sealed.
Lips are sealed.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I wish I had the list in front of me, but who is going
Yeah.
to
So
be there?
we have I believe 9, and I see if I can remember them off the top of my head. So, Liberty Pole, Dad's Hat, Stolen Wolf, Red Pump, Quantum, Rusty Musket, Park Family Farms, Wiggle, and West Everton Distilling.
Yeah.
I believe that's the list. I hope I didn't leave anyone off.
I mean, that's 9, so...
Yes.
Yeah, I'll find the list later.
Yeah.
And be like, I'll just put it in the
But
video.
I appreciate
So,
that.
Park Family Farms. We stumbled upon them. We didn't go in. We stumbled upon them a while back. My wife and I go to Oak Lodge
Yeah.
in Ligonier, right outside of
Yep,
Ligonier.
yep.
We go there once a year for like a nice
Yeah.
long weekend or something. Really enjoy cabins in the middle, tucked away in the middle of nowhere. But you pass going from there to Ligonier. You pass Park Family Farms. At least their sign. And I was confused because I thought it was Paul Family Farms, which is a maple syrup place. And I was like, I don't think they're over this way. But it made me look it up, and they weren't open while we were there. But that'd be cool to run into them.
They're great. They had a great time last year. They were very thankful to be part of it, and they had a great turnout, so it was awesome. We're excited to have them back, and I'm excited to have Tall Pine Distillery as well.
That's
right.
so
I apologize, Tall Pine.
I thought there was at least one more. I couldn't remember who they were.
Yeah. So, and they are returning from last year too, where they were excited to come back out again.
We met Rusty Musket at the Western PA Spirits Fest.
Okay.
Last year.
Yeah.
And they had because Zack was all pumped, for those that are going to watch the possible video of us doing the whiskey walk last night. Zack was pumped with the one that had they had a pickle vodka.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Rusty Musket has a
the
pickled
pickle.
one, and it is so good.
Yes.
I know this is a whiskey podcast, but I like pickles.
I was like, the pickle vodka was excised.
Excise, yes, thank you.
Yeah.
But Rusty Musket's cool. We follow them on social media, and I'm excited to see them again. Cause
Yeah,
they
I
have
just
a
saw
nice
a
product.
post from them this morning. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to expand the Whiskey Smash?
I think that's definitely in future talks and seeing how and what that would look like. I think we're doing a little bit of expansion of the museum space. So we're going into the second floor with some interpretive space. So that could be a possibility to have some more distillers and have some more guests that are able to actually get in the building. So it's all a matter of space. So if we can find the space for it, we would be all for expanding it as large as it can go. Yeah.
I'm all for that.
Seems like every few months there's a new distillery here in Pennsylvania.
Oh, I know,
my
it's
gosh,
great.
yes.
Yeah, it's awesome. Like I said, you can almost throw a stone and you can find a new distillery.
Maybe someday we'll reach back to 1900 days and
Yeah, I was going to say,
return.
we're getting close because
Right.
they're just popping up everywhere now.
They are. Yeah, it's great.
anything else you want to tell us?
No, just come on out anytime. We're open May through October from Thursday through Sundays, 10 to 4. Come out for a tour and tasting of our product. We're excited to host folks.
Perfect.
Yeah.
All right. Well, hey, Patrick, thanks for sitting
Awesome.
down.
No, my
Thanks for
pleasure.
taking time away from the table today.
Yeah. No, my pleasure.
Yeah, and we look forward to seeing you on November 18th.
November 18th.
We'll be there, man. Looking forward to it.
Thanks, man.
All right. Thank you.
And we're back with our next interview. We have Mike Robinson, who is the president-elect of the Bradford House Historical Association, and Denise Cummings, who is the current president of the Bradford House Historical Association. Welcome.
Thank you.
Does that mean you guys are running against each other? Or?
No,
Okay.
he takes over when I'm done.
There we go.
I actually wanted to hear you say that 3 times real fast.
You got two. That's it, Mike. You got two. All right, so tell us a little about, like, what, your position, like, what do you do for, and what is the Bradford House Historical Association? There's your third one.
Okay, what do? We do a little bit of everything that needs to be done around here. We started out as an organization back in the 1960s when the Bradford House opened as a museum. And in the last 3 years, we've expanded our campus. Originally, the house was owned by the Pennsylvania Museum and Historical Commission, but the Bradford House Historical Association became the owner in 2017. And so since then, we've been expanding programs. We expanded our campus to include the Whiskey Rebellion Education and Visitor Center. And even though it had that grand name, it really didn't have the education space that we needed. So when the opportunity presented itself this spring, we have a new meeting house education space.
Nice. Awesome. So talk to me about the Bradford House.
The Bradford House is a National Historic Landmark. It was completed in 1788 by David Bradford, one of the leaders in the Whiskey Rebellion. He was an attorney by profession. He was Deputy Attorney General for Washington County, which is the equivalent of the district attorney today. He was also involved in the shipping business, and this was just one of several properties that he owned. The house was the first two-story house in Washington and the first stone house. So the town was just being laid out. Everything else at that point is log cabin structures.
And it's actually in the background of our video here. So we're just right next to it, yeah.
Yes, you can see the background very well. Looks nice. It's a nice, well-kept building.
Thank you, and you can thank Mike for that. He's head of our campus committee, or was. I guess he's passed that off now to Joe. But he's still very active in taking care of it, and we've gotten some grants in recent years to enable us to restore things that needed to be restored properly. We can't say that it looks exactly like it did when the Bradfords lived here inside, because we don't know what that was.
Right.
But we always say that if David and Elizabeth walked through the front door, they would recognize the place and be comfortable there.
Why did you two get involved with the Bradford House?
Well, a former board member that was president at the time invited me to a little get-together at the house, and I find the local history interesting. I moved here 40 years ago from Charleston, West Virginia, and having a National Historic Landmark in town and having history about whiskey and the way this part of the country was instrumental in the young government of the United States appealed to me. So I've been doing it now for 3 years and hope to do it for a while longer.
Good. Denise?
I started with the Whiskey Rebellion Festival actually in the summer of 2011 as a volunteer, and the following year I retired from teaching, and I first became a volunteer and then was very quickly volunteered for the board. Worn a lot of different hats as the house manager, gift shop manager, and so forth. But it fits in well with what I did for a career. I'm still educating people, but people of varying ages and sizes now, and more on my terms than working the 9 to 5 every day.
Excellent. So how does this tie into the Rebellion Fest that we're here for?
Well, we think that the history of the late 18th century was seminal to our new government being able to say we can tax people, we can raise an army, we can support the finances of our government, and even though people in this neck of the woods didn't like the tax because they just fought a war over taxation without representation, it was something they really needed to come around to. There were people who wanted to split off and form a new country on this west side of the Alleghenies. And George Washington and Alexander Hamilton couldn't allow that to happen. So the festival is important because David Bradford was involved, and it gives us an opportunity to do some reenacting. We have people doing demonstrations of textile crafts. We have food and drink and music. It's a lot easier for people to swallow education when they're having a good time.
So I see people going in and out of the museum. And you just open, or are you doing anything special inside? Or?
Today it's only a first floor walkthrough.
Gotcha.
With the volume of people that we see on festival day, we just can't allow them to go upstairs.
Right.
It creates a hazard. And so we're, of course, putting everybody's health and safety first. We are open Wednesdays through Saturdays from 10 to 4, from April through November for tours. We have a generous sponsor, EQT, so that they are free tours. They can come at any time. It takes 45 minutes to an hour. We have very experienced, knowledgeable docents who are dressed in 18th century attire, who will take them through the house and explain all about 18th century living. So we encourage people to come back. We also do tours by appointment on other days and in the off season. We're never completely closed.
And then, of course, across the street,
That was my next question.
we have the new Whiskey Rebellion Education and Visitor Center. And the reason we did that, while you're touring with docents talking about the 18th century living, it's a little awkward to fit in the discussion about the rebellion, which was over a period of few years and had a lot of events. We felt that the visitor center was a better way to explain the timeline of the rebellion. Why were people upset? What did they do? How did it conclude? It's a number of firsts in our country that occurred because of the rebellion. And so the visitor center tells that part of the story. It's also free because of our generous sponsors. And then with the new meeting house, we can actually have a board meeting on our own property. We've been having to go elsewhere. We can put on classes and seminars, and we've had pop-up shops in there, and it's only been open since February, and we've gotten a lot of good use out of it.
Yeah, we were in both. We were in the meeting house for the last night for the walk to get our tickets and stuff. But then we were in the history center, and it was really, I didn't fully take in everything, but
it looks very nice.
But
it's
really,
very well put together, and just
Thank you. We're really proud of it.
Love to do I'm sure you'd love to do a video tour or something of it.
Something.
Yeah.
Almost like a documentary style.
Yeah.
Might be able to be arranged.
You might want to wait, because through a very generous donation or grant from the Allegheny Foundation, we've just received $50,000, and so we hope to even improve it more.
Nice.
Oh, that'd be perfect. What kind of improvements do you want to make?
Well, in this day and age, as we sit here doing digital stuff and podcasts, we think there's opportunities to have more technology in our museums and in the meeting house. We do have a very large screen that we can plug into a computer for classes, but we haven't quite, this fell into our lap. We asked for it, and we said what some of the things we could do for it. We have to pay rent and salaries. We have one executive director is our full-time employee. We have part-time docents, and so we can pay rent and we can help pay salaries, and then we've got tables and chairs you can configure into any kind of meeting space. We may need to do some more of that. Our walls are kind of naked at the place. Maybe we can dress those up.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, all the questions I was forming, okay, when we get time, I ask this question. It seems like you guys answered them.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, with the Whiskey Rebellion Festival here, the question is mostly what does David Bradford and his house have to do with the Whiskey Rebellion? But I think you've answered a lot of that. Is there anything else you want to add about the connection between Whiskey Rebellion and the Bradford House, or even David Bradford himself?
Well, since you are Dram Yinzers, you might find it interesting that whiskey was currency in the frontier. We didn't have a treasury yet, any currency in circulation. There was very little out here. It was Spanish or French or British, and so there was a barter economy. And you can't transport sheafs of rye very far without them getting wet and moldy, but you can transport whiskey a long way. And so if your wife needed a new dress or a bag of flour, some sugar or tea, or you wanted to buy a horse, you bartered with whiskey. So I think people appreciate that fact, which we can tell as the background story of the Whiskey Rebellion. And there's a lot of Scotch-Irish people in this area. They're kind of fiery folk, and they like their whiskey, and they don't like being told what to do. We have an author that we just had a book signing last week or so, and he said that when people arrived in this country to escape religious prosecution and settled, they hit the coast, and all the cities and land around the coast was occupied, and they couldn't find land to buy, so the people in the coast said, go west. So they went a little further west, and they found the German settlers in Pennsylvania, and they'd already bought up all that land, and they said, you should go further west. So they wound up going over the mountains. Well, it was an 11-day trip from Washington to Philadelphia. All the courts were there. If you were found to have an infraction with the excise tax, you had to drop all your farming, make a trek to Philadelphia. Well, not a lot of that happened because they fought the excise tax collectors, and they weren't very effective at serving writs. And when they did try to serve writs, that kind of when the fireworks started. That's when the shooting and the few fatalities occurred. So whiskey was something everyone drank. It wasn't a luxury, as Alexander Hamilton thought it was, and it was on the East Coast, but it was not here. It was just a way of life.
Can you imagine selling a bottle of your whiskey so your wife gets a new dress?
I mean, I guess I would.
He'd buy her flour sacks
There you go.
with the whiskey.
So, talking about the Whiskey Rebellion, this is a whiskey podcast. Josh does a whiskey YouTube channel. Do you both like whiskey?
Not particularly. I'll be honest.
She has a
it's
family
okay.
member.
It's okay in some mixed drinks, but my son-in-law is actually Scots and works at distillery in Scotland. So
Now I need to know which one, though.
right now it's Black Isle Brewery, and they're about to establish a distillery.
Okay.
But he's been at Tomatin and Vodacro and some others in his career. So I and my family enjoys it. Me, just not so much.
You need a mixed drink, is what you're saying.
Yes, something fruity.
Nothing wrong with that. Yeah, my wife she's not a big whiskey fan, but she has been enjoying a lot more like whiskey, like centric cocktails.
Yeah.
And as long as she can't taste it, if it's mixed well and she can't taste it, she's fine.
I don't mix it with anything. I found that blasphemous, but I started out, one of my friends at work was a Maker's Mark ambassador, and that's kind of how I got into bourbon.
Yeah.
And I think I'm an ambassador for life with Makers, but I have branched way out from that. That was 20 to 30 years ago. So yes, I like whiskey. I have quite the stash of things that I can find. I tend to go outside of Pennsylvania, unfortunately, to get a lot of it because of the difficulty with the PALCB.
Don't get me started.
I have kids living in North Carolina who also has a state store system, but I have kids in Boston, and I have a son that lives in Illinois, and I can find some pretty good stuff. So I look for unicorns, but I don't really.
Yeah.
Like you find it.
I think you can buy something that's probably almost as tasty as Pappy's 23 or something.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Although my son-in-law, as a generous gesture, was working in Kentucky, and he bought me a 15-year-old old Rip Van Winkle.
Yes.
I would have never paid what he paid for it, but I appreciate the gesture.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So what's your go-to then? Like if you're at home and you're like, you know what, I want to pour something. What's your grab?
I think Makers is a good daily thing. I like Buffalo Trace, but you have a hard time finding it.
Right.
I like all the Buffalo Trace products, but I like rye too. I've been drinking Sazerac and other stuff. I have a whiskey drinking group. We periodically do a blind tasting.
Oh, nice.
Have all the glasses and everything to do that. We haven't done it since the pandemic, but so we'll try things and I'll gravitate to whatever came out on top, even though people's tastes are different.
Yes.
Perfect. Anything else?
I can't think of anything. No.
Yeah,
I know
okay.
I didn't say much, but I
Yeah.
answered all my questions.
No, you're good.
so-
You're good. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you, Mike and Denise. Thank you guys for sitting down with us. I know you guys are super busy today, but thanks for giving us a couple minutes. Mike, thanks for all your help getting our new spot set up. Really
you're
appreciate it,
welcome.
man.
Yes, thank you so
I
much.
know we probably put a little bit of like that's one other thing we have to do by moving our tent down here, but we really appreciate you guys
You
accommodating
need
us.
a little more quiet than
Yeah, a
up
little
by
bit.
the stage. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, we appreciate you coming and
Yeah.
being here. I hope
Yeah.
you keep doing it.
So do we.
Thanks for inviting us to talk with you.
Yeah, thank you.
Alrighty, and we're back with our next guest, Dave Buttinger. Works for the Bradford House Historical Association as well. Mike volunteered him to come over and say hi. Dave is a docent. Did I say that right?
Yep,
Docent.
got it right.
And then you also work in the...
In the visitor center,
Yeah.
the Whiskey Rebellion Visitor Center.
So, what is a docent?
Oh, docent? Okay. Docent is basically a glorified tour guide. He or she is usually a little more knowledgeable than your average tour guide.
Mm-hmm.
They spend time researching, delving into the history of whatever they're taking their tour guides through. And they can sort of claim the title of docents at some period. A self-proclaimed title for the most part. And that's basically the difference between a docent and a tour guide. One just knows a little more than the other.
Gotcha. How long have you been doing that?
This is my sixth year. Sixth year, yes.
Were you volunteer, or did you work with the Bradford Historical
Actually,
Association?
no. I got into this kind of sideways. I've been a reenactor for about 20 years, mostly Revolutionary War, French and Indian War, mostly 18th century reenacting military style. I got older and got retired, and it's hard being a soldier. And the Bradford House, I've always been kind of intrigued with it. And the Whiskey Rebellion, I knew something about it, but not a whole lot. And the Bradford House, Tracy Liberator, the director, were advertising for docents to work it. I had enough background knowledge to classify as a docent, I guess. And so they hired me.
Yeah.
It's right now it's a 4-day-a-week job. And we meet incredibly cool people coming into that door sometimes. And it's a lot of fun. And we have a good cadre of knowledgeable people that are banked around the Bradford House and the Whiskey Rebellion Center. And this festival is truly remarkable, based around a very little-known event in U.S. history. We're bringing it back to life here as being what it is. It was a significant event in our early history. So that's how I got into this thing. It's definitely cool.
Yeah.
And I enjoy the history of it, and I'm finding I'm meeting all kinds of people, and most of them as interested as I am in it. And if not, they're just really cool people too. They're interesting people.
So you said that docents do a lot of research into things, and I know, at least my own experience doing research, sometimes you find some tidbit that you really latch on to, and then you do a rabbit hole. Is there a thing for you that's your rabbit hole when it comes to the Bradford House?
Not necessarily mine, but the rabbit hole the Bradford House is in right now is trying to find the lineage of David Bradford's wife, Elizabeth Porter. We have no background on her at all, confirmed background. We don't even know exactly when they were married, no wedding certificate, anything like that. And there's a genealogical team in the association. One of their jobs is to research Elizabeth Porter. They've gone down several rabbit holes, one leading all the way to Massachusetts, and the governor of Massachusetts that came over on the Mayflower, things like that.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Which would be great, but we can't nail it down. But my own personal one, I've been through several. I enjoy researching David's escape, for instance, from that house over there, right across to my right.
Yeah.
He fled there before federal troops showed up to arrest him in connection with this thing. And he fled all the way down to Spanish West Florida, making a new home outside Baton Rouge on a plantation. I like researching that background.
That's the only thing we've ever had to pause for noise. That's great. I'm so glad we're done. We used to be up there.
How many times you have to deal with that?
That's the first time they've gone by, actually.
Oh, here we go again.
Okay, they sent 2 pumpers,
Yeah.
So far it's not a biggie.
They used to have us up right in front of the music center, so
Oh, did
we
you?
always had so
Oh,
much
yeah.
background noise. We asked if we could be moved down
Because
down
this
the road
is
a
way
little bit.
better.
This is so much
way
better.
better.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's yes. I do. We just got new books. I've read several books on the Whiskey Rebellion from a variety of different people. I edited a book written by Tom Hart. He was a biology professor at W&J College who spent a lifetime studying the Whiskey Rebellion and David Bradford and his family. I'm a retired newspaper guy, and so he thought I could be a good editor there. It didn't turn out real well, but we have all his research there. And so I've researched his research a lot.
Okay.
That's what I've done, and become somewhat of an expert. He has his own opinions on things. Every book I've read has their own opinions on the Whiskey Rebellion and the characters involved in it. It's just fun reading all of this stuff.
So, would you be able to quickly summarize Bradford's escape? I know there's a lot that happens in between when he leaves, and then I think he comes back. I think
he does. It's not okay. There's some myths that will bust here. First of all, he did not leap out a second-floor window onto the back of his horse. That was carried. I even read it in historical anthologies that were written about Washington County. That was a story they carried. He was just ahead of the federal troops. He actually left at least 3 and possibly more days before federal troops showed up at that front door to arrest him. And by the way, Alexander Hamilton was very likely with them. He was instructed by George Washington to arrest Alexander Hamilton by hook or by crook, or any means possible. He wanted David badly. Federal troops did come here in early November of 1794. Discovered David was gone. They did search the house. He was gone. He fled, not to Pittsburgh, like most of the history books said. He fled to Wheeling on horseback. He traded his horse for a canoe. It might be a bateau, probably larger than the canoe we know of now. And he's going to paddle himself down the Mississippi to a place called it's Cincinnati now, but back then it was Fort Washington, where he expected to pick up a boat that would take him the rest of the way to New Orleans, or at least to Baton Rouge. But troops caught up with him along the way, and there was gunfire. He was on the other side of the Ohio River, so he missed being fired upon. He did get to Cincinnati, or Washington. Well, there goes the ambulance, so it's a little something more than that. The old newspaper man.
Yeah.
He did make his way to, after a series of episodes on different boats, did make his way to Fort Washington, Cincinnati. He had a friend that lived named John Smith outside of Fort Washington, and he stayed with him through that winter, into the spring, into May. We're talking May 1975 now. He came back to Washington. This is not reported.
Was that May what year?
1795.
Okay.
Okay? And he came home ostensibly to convince his wife Elizabeth and family to come south with him and join him. Elizabeth would not do that. This is the lady who would not marry him until he built a very fine house, that one right across the street, and was doggone well not going to go join him in Owasso, Louisiana until he built a nice plantation. He was here for about 3 to 6 days before he learned there was a warrant out for him. Somebody had finally ratted on him. There was a warrant out for him coming out of Pittsburgh. So he fled again. This time he managed to take a riverboat all the way down to Baton Rouge safely with no problems. Now it's interesting that while he was here, and the proof we had he was here, he fathered a child while he was here that was born in his absence. And so that, in a nutshell, is his adventures going down the river. He actually laid over for a winter and came back. He did come back at least 2 more times while his warrants were still outstanding for his arrest to settle legal issues. He had to buy the property to that house across the way. He hadn't done that. It was a handshake deal that he acquired those 2 lots that property is on, and in order to sell it, he had to finish that sale. So he came back to do that, and he came back one more time to settle some legal matters involving his properties that he had to sell through the area. And finally, he came back to in 1797 and helped his wife pack up and took her back down to Baton Rouge. By that time, things had really cooled down. Nobody bothered him. He wasn't really pardoned until 1799 by John Adams. But so technically, he was still a wanted fugitive. But he had basically run off to another country, Spanish West Florida, so they never sent anybody in pursuit of him after that. So there you are. That's David's fleeing from this territory in a nutshell.
No, that's exactly what I wanted. Thank you.
There should be a book. There could be a book on this thing, or at least a movie or something like that. It's
Right.
I think there should be a book or a musical or something.
A musical would be good.
Yeah.
Something other than Hamilton.
Yeah.
We can have Bradford.
Yeah. So when you're working, at the Bradford house, how do you go that deep into his story when you're giving tours and stuff?
Not that deep.
It's
but
just more about the house in general.
Yeah, it's about the house, and we look at the people that come in. Some people are strictly interested in the house, lifestyle, how they lived back then. So that's what we stick with. Other people really do want to know how the Bradfords lived here, their story, that kind of thing. That's one of the reasons we have the visitor center across the street. We tell them, if you want to dive deep into the Whiskey Rebellion, that happens across the street. Here we tell you about the house, how it was built, why it was built, how it was almost torn down for a parking lot in 1959, how it was rescued. There's a story about the house, too. That's rather neat, how the fact they had to tear down a building next door to the Bradford house in order to prop up that north wall because it was falling down whenever they were restoring it. In the early 60s. The state spent an awful lot of money on this house. We don't know exactly how much, but I've been doing some research lately, and I know they spent at least $1.5 million in today's dollars restoring that house to what it looks like today. And that's just, there's other monies that were spent, but I don't know where they came from as far as the state budgets went. And then the state got out of the house museum business and gradually turned this thing over to the association. We had the deed for it. We own it now. But yeah, I don't get that deep into it unless I really have some people will call for an appointment and they're usually kind of deep into it.
Yeah.
And those tours might take a couple hours before we get out of there.
I'm sure. As you were saying, rabbit hole, I'm sure you can definitely get
There's so many rabbit holes that connect with this thing. It's incredible.
That's the kind of person I would be. Like, okay, well, let's go back to this real quick. So tell me more about that part. And I could go on for. I'm not a history buff in the slightest, but I have plenty of friends who are, but I'm not a history buff. But when it comes to certain things, I will go down a strong rabbit hole on
for sure.
So
yeah, some things grab you, and off you go. And that's sort of what happened with me with the Bradford house here. I mean, I've been doing a lot of reenacting on different areas, different spots, but I hadn't really anchored on one. And this one works for me, it really does.
Excellent.
And
Any
some
other-
people think the house is haunted, so there you are.
By who?
People just say they see things. I'm not. I'm a skeptic. I'll tell you right now, I'm a skeptic. I have not had any problem with it, but we have another docent that has felt things. Do you know there's an app on the phone you can get?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I did not know that. There's an app that'll tell you can speak to these people. I said, okay, sure. An app.
I mean, I'm a skeptic as well, but not probably a little bit differently than you guys. But
no, I'm not saying it's impossible, but I have felt nothing in this house. And, so that's the way it is. So what started you guys in this thing?
Wanting to learn about whiskey.
Okay.
Yeah.
I noticed that. Well, you came to the right place.
Yeah, I know. And when my other co-host Zack, when him and I started, it was just more
his actual co-host.
My other co-host. You've been here enough. When him and I started this particular podcast, it was just us wanting to learn about like our own palates and like learning, wanting to get into whiskey, and figured we'd record the journey. And within a month, we learned about just the history when it came to whiskey, not even just the rebellion, but just like, and the history that just basically fell into our laps of the area, and then how much craft was in the area as well. And we kind of just like landed in a gold mine unknowingly, you know. Got invited to, when we first started, we actually were invited. It was the 10-year, the 10th anniversary.
Yeah.
And we got to go to the blending event they had at Liberty Pool.
Oh, you were there? I was there.
Yeah,
too.
we had the whole setup. We had all the mics in it. That was
Okay,
us.
okay,
Yeah,
that was
yeah.
you guys.
We
Okay.
had just started like a couple months before that,
Is that
and
right?
got invited to do this, and we were just like, "What is life?" You know.
Wow.
And then this is our third
Some
year.
people are just so successful.
I know.
Yeah, I tell you.
Our third. This is our third year coming.
Third
so
year?
yeah,
Okay.
and then we ran into Josh a few years ago. Josh has a YouTube channel, a whiskey YouTube channel.
Okay.
And so
Really?
then we've
I
been
was
bringing
thinking-
him along with
Really?
us as well. Yeah,
Yes.
he's basically one of us. He doesn't like to think it sometimes, but he's one of us.
Yeah,
Okay.
see, honestly, a lot of my knowledge now of the craft and the history stuff, though, is listening to their podcasts and then talking to people like this and other events and stuff, talking about whiskey in Pennsylvania. So so I've learned a lot in the past few years since meeting them and listening to their podcast because of that.
Cool.
I mean, so like I didn't know about the Whiskey Rebellion. I got into doing the channel because the channel's called Thrifty Whiskey. We do budget whiskey reviews. So we're trying to.
That's where I'm at.
Right, so we're trying to talk to people who they want to get into whiskey, but they don't have a whole lot of money to spend on whiskey, or they don't want to spend a whole lot of money on whiskey. So that was where
35 and under.
that currently survived under. Yeah, we started at 30. Inflation happened.
35.
35.
Yeah.
35's easy. Yeah.
Yeah. But now, like I said, more and more, it's a more interest in the craft movement, and specifically in Pennsylvania, but in general, but mostly Pennsylvania, and then also the history of whiskey in Pennsylvania, because it's something it doesn't get talked about a whole lot, and
It
it really should.
I was unaware myself until I got into this gig. And Mike, you've met Mike.
Yep.
Yeah.
Huge. He turned into a huge aficionado here,
Oh yeah.
and he can talk to you about whiskey better than I can. I'm more of the lower level, looking for the good stuff down below here, and sometimes grossly disappointed, sometimes surprised, you know. And
So
my
you'll love
channel for you.
Josh's
yeah,
channel.
sounds
then,
like
yeah.
I love your channel. Okay.
Awesome. Well, hey, thanks, Dave, for sitting down with us.
Sure, I enjoyed it.
Even though Mike probably told you to come over and talk to these
Well,
goofballs sitting
I
outside.
was tired, and I said, we really got to, but I'm glad I came, guys.
Yeah, no,
you're
we're
fun to
glad.
talk to, and you're good listeners.
Thank you.
And besides, it gives me once I get rolling, sometimes it's hard to stop.
Oh yeah,
That's
fine though. That's
by
okay
me.
with us. Yeah, especially when it's something
See, now I have to get next time whenever I do come to actually do the tour here, I'll be like, hey, look, I need Dave.
I want Dave to do
and I
mine.
need him for like 2 hours. So
If you do that, sure, go ahead.
okay, great.
Sure, go ahead. I'm sure we can spend 2 hours in there.